The Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) were adopted by the United Nations in the year 2015 as a means to ensure that by the year 2030 all people enjoy peace and prosperity. And I know as Zimbabweans the year 2030 rings a bell. I mean, who doesn't know the attainment of an upper middle income society by the year 2030, a vision adopted by government in the year 2017. And today on Inside Out, we seek to understand how far we've gone as a country, or rather to interrogate our journey in as far as the implementation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are concerned. Thank you for joining us. I am Yvonne Mukondani, and joining us for the discussion today, we have Siloshus Chaturuka, who is the Deputy Director, SDGs and Agenda 2063 section in the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. We also have Sungano Chisina, who is the Director Operations from the Zimbabwe Youth Council. Thank you for joining us on Inside Out.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
We are very well, and yourself?
Great, thank you. As we start off the conversation, I just want to understand what government is doing in order to ensure that the ordinary person at home understands what we mean when we're talking about these SDGs.
Sure. Thank you very much, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
And I will start by maybe giving a brief background of what these SDGs are.
Please.
SDGs, it's a global call by all the UN nations to achieve prosperity, a peaceful environment, and we need partnerships in implementing all these SDGs. And by so doing, we'll be doing this for the planet and the people. So if you take stock of what I've said, I've actually spoken about 5 Ps. The peace, prosperity, partnerships, and planet, and the people whom we are doing all this for. So it is actually that core. And for us to achieve that, we need partners, we need everyone. It's an all-stakeholder approach that works in line with the whole of society approach, which the government is also implementing. So if we are saying, when we are talking about the SDGs, it's not about Chaturuka, or is it about Yvonne alone, but it calls for everyone to be on board. So if you look from the government perspective, what we have done, because SDGs are at a global level, we need to narrow down. At the regional level, we have the Agenda 2063. The Agenda 2063 also borrows from the global agenda, and it's now at a continental level. And as we move from the continental level, we then come to the national level, where we now have the National Development Strategy 1 and the Vision 2030 that you have made reference to. So these are our national policy documents that we are now implementing, the instruments that we are implementing the global agenda, the SDGs. So this is how all these documents are linked. So as we move to how everyone else plays a role, if you look at it, if you look at the architecture in which we are implementing the National Development Strategy 1, as well as the SDGs, it calls for all the stakeholders, the whole of society. So we call for private sector participation, we call for development partners, we call for MDAs, we call for CSOs, as well as academia, the communities, the traditional leaders. They all have a role to play in implementing these SDGs. So it calls for everyone to come on board.
It calls for everyone.
Yes.
Sungano, we're talking about SDGs, and there's no conversation that we can have without the inclusion of the youths. Now, she mentioned 5 components. She says people, planet, partnerships, peace, and
people,
and prosperity.
Yes.
So where do youths fit in this narrative?
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Zimbabwe. Indeed, youth are an integral part of this achievement of SDGs by 2030. Let me just start off with the current statistics of youth. You note that we have just over 5 million youth, which are people between ages of 15 and 35. So already we have spoken about people. Part of the people are the youth. If you lose 1/3 of the population, it means that in the achievement of SDGs will be a mammoth task. So youth are very important. If ever we want to achieve both the Vision 2030 that the country is running with, together with the Agenda 2030 of the SDGs. As the Zimbabwe Youth Council, we have mainstreamed youth participation across all the 17 SDGs. meaning to say that these young people have also been oriented to participate throughout if you look at issues to do with planet, they are part of cleanup campaigns that are happening, tree planting that is happening. If you look at issues to do with employment and skills development, we are also working with them under the vocational training aspect. So we believe that the youth are very important and they need to be mainstreamed across all the SDGs. And we are working together, that's partnership with government, to ensure that the youth take center stage. They also are part of awareness campaigns because it's important that if you want to tell a young person how to participate in SDGs, you use another young person, peer-to-peer information dissemination. So we are using the youth to ensure that information reaches out to every part of Zimbabwe together with the government of Zimbabwe.
So looking at information reaching every part of Zimbabwe, leaving no place and no one behind, how are you faring in that regard? Because, you know, sometimes we end up in situations where we have an us and them syndrome. You're doing what you're doing, but we don't understand what it is about. So do the young people out there, down there in Muzarabani, Uzumba, Maramba, Fungwe, Kwaswoshe, do they know what we're talking about? Do they even know what SDGs are? Or it's just maybe one of those things that they don't even understand?
Thanks, Yvonne. You have raised a very important aspect of reaching across the country. I would say it's a process, and hopefully by 2030 we should then be able to say this is as far as we have gone in terms of reaching to the young people. There are many ways of reaching to young people, but if you look at the trending issues on social media, we also want to ensure that SDGs are part of that trends that are happening on social media. But you have to reach out also to those who do not even have access to technology, access to devices. So your mainstream media is very important as well to that aspect. But I would say it's a process, and I think in terms of monitoring and evaluation of how we are faring, the government is very important in terms of that aspect of ensuring or measuring the extent to the reach. But I would say through the youth associations that we supervise as the Zimbabwe Youth Council, we have allowed them to operate at district level, ward level, provincial level, as well as national level. So we would know that in Muzarabani or in Uzumba, Maramba, Fungwe, there are how many youth associations or youth groups and youth clubs. And they've actually gone to an extent of forming youth clubs that are centered on SDGs. So we have Zim Youth SDGs as a club that is spreading information on SDGs. And we are using that to reach out to young people.
Okay, I'll come to you, Silosius, just now. I also want to understand something. As you're working with these youths in various organizations, I know you're the Zimbabwe Youth Council and you go with the message of SDGs. Many times when people come with these programs, right, whether they're government related or whatever it is that it is, there's this tendency of people politicizing it, or even the community just taking a step back and saying, you know what, maybe this is not for us. How are you managing to include everyone so that it does not seem like a political issue?
Thank you very much. Clearly, the Zimbabwe Youth Council is a non-political organization, non-partisan organization, so we embrace all young people. If you look at the students that we work with, we work with from a university perspective, college perspective, or even at primary and secondary school level. We also have the junior parliament program, where we have 210 children who represent other children, and that's non-partisan. And we ensure that the message that they go to other peers with is non-political, non-partisan. But we will understand that youth are also in that political groupings. We also engage them within their political groups so that they also spread the same information to their peers, both the opposition and the ruling political figures. We engage them because the idea of leaving no one and no youth behind is very important, And every young person is free to come to the Zimbabwe Youth Council, is free to join programs that are being spearheaded by the Zimbabwe Youth Council, because we are a non-partisan organization.
And Siloshes, coming to you as a government official, the question that I just asked him, how is it when you're working with communities, the moment maybe that you introduce yourself as a government official or, you know, as someone from such a ministry, people tend to then politicize that. And sometimes you find that it's not even the community, but the community leaders themselves who want to sway these things and make them political. How are you handling such that, you know, everyone gets to be part and parcel of this very important aspect?
Yes, thank you, Yvonne. All right, in that regard, let me just make reference to the current program that we are currently running with. We have what we call the Voluntary National Review. This document takes stock of SDGs implementation in Zimbabwe. And for us to come up with that particular document, we need to consult with all the stakeholders in the economy, in the country. And to that effect, we have been undertaking provincial consultations across all the 10 provinces. And as we speak, we have covered 6 provinces. We have covered Harare, we have covered Bulawayo, Midlands, Marsh East, Marsh Central, Marsh West. And next week, on the 13th, we will be in Matabeleland South. And on the 15th, we will be in Matabeleland North. And thereafter, we will then go to Masvingo and Mutare. And in our invitations, we make sure that we invite the traditional leaders, we invite ministries, departments and agencies, we invite private sector, the academia, the communities themselves, local authorities, even the CSOs, the development partners who are in these provinces. Because like I have initially said, that we need everyone. It's an SDGs, they take an all-stakeholder approach. So in these programs, all our programs that we will be doing, we ensure that we have this diversity of our stakeholders so that each and every one of them, they give input to this national document, and it then reflects what these communities would have or what these various constituents would have inputted. So it ends up being our document. And this process is done to ensure that we have buy-in and ownership of the very same document by the people of Zimbabwe. Yes.
Now, let's look at SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation, particularly bringing the conversation to now where as a country, not only as a country, as a region, really we're battling with cholera. So in terms of clean water and sanitation, how are we doing providing that to the ordinary citizenry in order then to fight cholera and ensure good health for all?
Yes, in terms of cholera, I think you have recently heard that as government we are rolling out the oral cholera vaccine to ensure that we reduce cholera incidences. This is one step, it's one strategy. And also, if you have also listened to the recent cabinet announcement, there has been this rollout of water and sanitation programs around schools or public places to ensure that we reduce the risk or the exposure of the general public. And this, we are not only limiting ourselves to these programs that are in line with WASH, but if you also look at what the president is, the program that is running with the president of borehole drilling across the country, we are, as government, we are planning to drill 35,000 boreholes across the country and 10,000 boreholes in schools. And this is meant to ensure that all the constituencies, they have access to clean water. And we know that if we have clean water, we also have reduced waterborne diseases. So these are some of the programs that government is actually undertaking. And even in the case where we have cholera outbreaks, we have seen government responding immediately to the cases so that we contain the cholera cases and ensure we manage. And this has not only happened to the cholera cases only. Even when we had COVID, if you remember, our government prioritized health issues. We know that we need a healthy population for us to be prosperous, to be productive. So as government, we have seen that they have also prioritized health-related issues, and we have made significant strides in health-related indicators, and we really appreciate the efforts to date. And even in terms of waste management. You have heard many times the cabinet, even the government, they have come up with programs. Operation Chenesa Harare, which is being cascaded to all the other local authorities, because we know that waste management is also a source of these waterborne diseases. So we know that we need to manage waste management. So we are, as government, we are working together with our local authorities so that we ensure our environments are clean. But we also need to implore to the general public that it is also we also have a role, because when you are dumping your litter everywhere, you are also contributing to the waterborne disease. So we need also to manage litter so that we don't drop litter everywhere. Let's drop litter in designated areas. And by so doing, we will be helping each other, you and I, because our country belongs to us all. We all have a role to play.
We all have a role to play. We're talking here about cholera, Songano, and we're looking at clean water and sanitation. And of course, clean water and sanitation resulting in good health for everyone, especially when you're talking about fighting cholera. And you mentioned that there is a program currently being carried out, the oral vaccination, cholera oral vaccination. And we've come from a time where we've been battling COVID-19 and people have been vaccinated. But then during that vaccination time, there were a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding the vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination. Here we are now. We are faced with yet another problem, and people need to be vaccinated. How are the youths taking it in terms of vaccination? How is the message of vaccination going, especially now that we have cholera, we've come from COVID-19, and the theories that have been thrown around by people?
Thanks, Yvonne. Maybe let me start by thanking the government for swiftly coming to the rescue of Zimbabweans, including the youth, with this program that has been highlighted, especially addressing issues of health and hygiene, also issues of waste management. We have seen the Operation Chenesa Guta going across communities and suburbs, and the youth are grateful for that response. Just as COVID vaccine came, I think you pointed out that there is a lot of conspiracy, but I would say with effective or efficient information dissemination by government, and the benefits being highlighted to the people, to the youth, to say, if you get vaccinated for cholera, these are the benefits, this is what you get, and this is the contribution, as I indicated earlier on, that we have 1/3 of the population being the youth 15 to 35. So we need to ensure that this generation has actually been protected against such diseases. And if ever we want to achieve Vision 2030 or other visions coming, we really need to take important steps in protecting this generation that we are talking about, because they are the ones that have energy, they are the ones that contribute to the economy. So the youth, obviously with education, with awareness, the program will run smoothly. Of course, it's a process to understand the aspects and the issues of health and education. But I would say at the moment where the program has been rolled out, we haven't faced any challenges in terms of accepting the program of vaccination against cholera. So I would implore government to continue in that respect, and also prioritizing the youth. And I know there are also youth with disabilities. They also need to access those services. Those youth with disabilities may have challenges in terms of either mobility, in terms of accessibility. So the institutions that will be conducting such vaccination should also take into account to reach out to youth with disabilities.
Let's just carry over from what he said. Mentioned a very important issue, youth with disability, not only youth, everyone really. What is government policy regarding them, and all these policies that you've been mentioning, are they inclusive?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. If you look at how government programs are usually done, especially the ones that are undertaken by health, they are taken to the communities so that they are close to the people who are supposed to be saved. So if you look at all the vaccination programs that have been undertaken to date, the health staff, they will go to the communities. And at times they even move door to door to provide such services. So the issue of inclusivity, I think as government we are doing our best to ensure we take everyone, because we really appreciate appreciate that there are these persons with disability whom we live with. They need to access our services, and we have been coming to the communities, and this is very normal. And even in terms of when we are having birth registration programs, etc., it's not just in the health sector, but even in other programs. They go to the communities, they conscientize, they educate people, and even provide mobile birth registration programs. And these are some of the efforts that government is doing, because we know that some people may not have even the bus fare to go to the urban areas or to the district towns but if we take the program to the people, it ensures that we leave no one and no place behind.
Now, let's look at the alleviation of poverty, zero hunger, as well as good health and well-being. Is this a reality for Zimbabwe, especially looking at now where we have the family basket at about 6.2 million Zimbabwean dollars? So are these three a reality?
Yeah, in terms of poverty, as government, if you look at some of the programs, we understand that there are some people who need social protection. And this is across the globe. It's not peculiar to Zimbabwe alone. Social protection is provided to everyone, in all the countries. And why do we provide social protection? Social protection is meant to ensure that those who have no means of survival, they are also cushioned. We have programs like the Food Deficit Mitigation Strategy, where government distributes grain to households, to the poor households who are out there. This is meant to ensure that every household is assured of a decent meal on a daily basis. And our ministry, being the ministry that coordinates social welfare programs, we have been having these programs in terms of, even we have what we call the assisted medical treatment orders, where those people who cannot even afford medical treatment, they are assisted by government. So we have quite a number of programs. Even if you look at the Fumvudza Intwasa program, which is being the popular program, that the presidential program, we have seen that as government, we want to ensure food security, because what starts is you need a food secure nation. We need people that are not hungry, that they will then be able to be productive, they will then be able to contribute. Because so many people, even we take for example, from the agricultural sector, so many people have managed to produce in excess of their household needs, and even afforded to sell some of this, so thereby even contributing to household income.
But other than the Fumvudza Intwasa, which we all know about, let's look at the other cushioning programs that you've mentioned when it comes to health and food provisions and stuff like that. Are these a reality, or is it just talk? Do people in the communities know? Are people benefiting? Those who do not know the information, where do they get it?
No, these programs, they are run in communities. We have, our ministry operates from the districts. So, and when they are in the district, they go even down to the wards. The food deficit program, it's known. It's also, we also have the BEAM, the Basic Education Assistance module, where we also assist those children who cannot afford to pay for school fees. They are assisted by government. So if you look at all these programs, they are meant to ensure that we alleviate poverty, extreme poverty, because those who are in the poor households, they are able to educate their children. If their children are able to be sent to school, then we are moving them from this vicious cycle of poverty, because we are moving them by educating them, and they become better households in future. So, and we are also providing school feeding programs to ensure that even when these children, when they come to school, they access school feeding. The school feeding is meant to ensure that at least they are guaranteed of a hot meal when they are in their school setup. And by so doing, that also activates their participation and contribution, even their results, their performance in school. So we see that as government, we've been doing a number of programs that complement each other. We need to feed the household, so we do the food mitigation strategy. Then we also need to support the kids by providing the beam, by providing the school feeding program, thereby supporting them. Those who have, let's suppose you are faced with an ailment, they are then assisted in the medical, through the assisted medical treatment orders. So we try to ensure that we cushion all the citizens.
All right.
Yeah.
You said youths contribute about a third of the population, which is quite a chunk. And we're talking about poverty alleviation, zero hunger, good health and well-being. And when we talk about the youths, how are the unemployment statistics in the country now, and how are you partnering government to make sure that all these three goals that we've mentioned become a reality?
Yes, thank you. The Zimbabwe Youth Council, maybe just to check, which coordinate youth across the country, is working in partnership with government, encouraging youth to take up employable, the sort of skills for employment programs. Now we have a new ministry, the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Development and Vocational Training, where we fall under. We are encouraging youth to take up vocational and technical skills so that they are able to create employment. And we borrow that also from government, which is running with Education 5.0. With this, we know that if we have a skilled generation, they will not be looking for employment, but they will be looking to create employment for themselves and other youth. Therefore, it will then contribute to alleviation of poverty, because you would have disposable income. You will be able also to pay your own bills if they are medical bills, even to also further your education because you have disposable income. Indeed, we would want the level of youth unemployment to go down even to 0.0 something, but working together with government, because the government, in terms of policy making, is the one that drives policy, and they put policy and programs to the youth, and the youth implement. So as the Zimbabwe Youth Council, we are the implementing arm of the ministry, and would want to ensure that whatever the ministry and or government is planning, we ensure that it reaches out to the youth, and they take up that program, so that even the participation, the level of participation, we know that in NDS1, one of the outcomes is to ensure that youth participate across all sectors. And government has also assisted in terms of creating what we call youth desks, where if you go to ministry responsible for public service, there is a youth desk, ministry responsible for agriculture, where we're talking of Fumvudza. Young people have also been able to access Fumvudza because of that creation of the youth desk. If you go to mining, ministry responsible for mining and minerals, there's a youth desk there. So in terms of accessibility of programs and dissemination of programs, it has been made easier because of that creation, and we appreciate the program that was launched by His Excellency in terms of creating those entry points for youth, because the youth has been complaining that we are failing to access services within government, but we are happy that there is an improvement in terms of access to employment
Since
opportunities and skills through the youth desks.
Okay, understood. He mentioned then education, and of course education model 5.0, where we're trying to have a generation where we have innovators, we're producing a skilled workforce, right? People who are not just going to go out there and look for jobs. Continuing on that conversation, they say there's a difference between being educated and between and being literate. And as Zimbabweans, we are known of boasting for being, literate. But I just want to understand, in as far as our education system is concerned, how we're doing in as far as technology is concerned, and where the world is going. Do you think we can still stand and boast and say we as Zimbabweans, we are educated and we can still stand in a technologically advanced world?
Yeah, sure. If you look at the current education curriculum, our education has been, it has shifted from 3.0 to 5.0. And if you look closely at that, the new curriculum, ICT is being started even at ECD level, which means that we are grooming our learners through ICT. By the time they get to tertiary education, this is where we are now expecting them now to solve societal problems through technology, because they would have been nurtured through the ICT infrastructure. So our current curriculum is taking cognizance, because we acknowledge that the globe is also changing, and we need to move up with the speed with the trends. So in that regard, we are also moving accordingly. And if we look at it at the higher and tertiary education, we have also established innovation and industrial hubs. These are also meant to ensure that we nurture people that actually create employment. Not only creation of employment in terms of just making goods and services. We need to make sure that those goods and services, they are also in line with the technological advances, so that people can access some of these services even when they are back home. When you are seated in the comfort of your home, you can still access services. And as government, we are also digitalizing our economy.
So what we've done with our one-stop border posts and stuff like that. I'm sorry we're running out of time. Just in brief, as we conclude, the National Youth Day, which is coming up, any plans?
Oh yes, annually on the 21st of February, we celebrate the achievement that has been made by the youth through their iconic leaders. So this year, yes, it's not business as usual, but we have youth being addressed by His Excellency, the President, who had never missed such an opportunity to interface with the youth. So it's happening on the 21st of February. Obviously, build-up events will be coming up and will be announced by the ministry responsible for youth empowerment, development, and vocational training. So let's be geared, youth across the country. Your president will address you. And
we are looking forward to that. 30 seconds in brief, your parting words.
Sure. SDGs are for us all. I always say this, and I will continue to say it. Let's play our part so that we all achieve the SDGs, because when we achieve as a team. If we miss it, we are going to miss it. So let's all play our part. Despite of our constituents, we have alluded to this, that we all have a role to play. So let's play our part to achieve the SDGs.
Let's all play our part to achieve SDGs. They are not for a particular grouping, but they are for everyone. This is Inside Out. Thank you for having joined us today. We're looking at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and where we are as a country in as far as the achievement of those goals is concerned. I must thank you so much for having joined us on Inside Out. I hope we will meet again on such a platform and get to continue with the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Indeed. Until we meet again, hopefully next week, pleasant viewing.